The Midnight Mechanic. The Nevada desert held many secrets, but none quite like the one Marcus Henderson stumbled upon that frigid December night. His old pickup truck's headlights cut through the darkness, illuminating nothing but endless sand and scattered Joshua trees as he made his way home from another grueling 12-hour shift at Henderson's Auto Repair. No relation, just cruel irony. The dashboard clock blinked too, 47 a.m. when he first saw it, a streak of purple light painting the sky, followed by the unmistakable sound of something massive tearing through the atmosphere. Marcus pulled over, his weathered hands gripping the steering wheel as he watched what he assumed was a meteor crash into the desert floor 3 miles east of the highway. He should have driven home. Emma, his 8-year-old daughter, was waiting with Mrs. Rodriguez, the elderly neighbor who watched her during his night shifts. But 20 years of fixing everything from tractors to military vehicles had given Marcus an instinct about machines in distress, and whatever had just crashed was definitely mechanical. 10 minutes, he muttered to himself, turning off the highway onto a rough desert trail. Just a quick look. The impact site glowed with an eerie blue luminescence. As Marcus approached on foot, his steel-toed boots crunching on the frozen desert soil, he realized he wasn't looking at any ordinary wreck. The vessel before him was roughly the size of a small yacht, its hull composed of overlapping plates that seemed to shift colors like oil on water. A pained groan emanated from within the ship, followed by a string of words in a language Marcus had never heard. He approached cautiously, his phone's flashlight beam revealing a jagged tear in the hull's side. Inside, amidst a tangle of what looked like liquid metal cables, lay a figure that couldn't possibly be human. She, at least Marcus assumed it was a she, had silvery skin that seemed to shimmer with its own inner light. Her features were almost human, but her eyes were solid gold, without pupils or irises. She wore what appeared to be a suit of armor made from the same color-shifting material as the ship's hull. "Stay back," she commanded in perfect English, though her voice had an odd resonance, like multiple people speaking in perfect synchronization. "This vessel's core is unstable." Marcus raised his hands slowly. "I'm a mechanic," he said, speaking clearly and calmly, the same way he'd taught Emma to approach stray cats. "I might be able to help." The alien's golden eyes narrowed. "You, a human mechanic, this ship's technology is centuries beyond your civilization's capabilities." Marcus shrugged, already studying the twisted mass of cables visible through the hull breach. "Maybe, but I bet those cables are carrying some kind of power to your engine, and right now they're kinked like a garden hose. Advanced tech or not, power needs to flow." The alien woman tried to stand but collapsed back with a hiss of pain. After a moment's hesitation, she gestured toward a panel near the breach. "The manual release is there. If you're wrong about the power conduits, the feedback will kill us both." "Story of my life," Marcus muttered, reaching for the panel. "I'm Marcus, by the way, Marcus Henderson. I am Naira, Chief Scientific Advisor to the Veridan Empire." She paused, then added with a bitter laugh, "Former Chief Scientific Advisor, I should say." As Marcus worked, carefully rerouting the living metal cables, Naira watched with increasing amazement. His hands moved with intuitive precision, treating the advanced technology like any other machine in need of care. Within 20 minutes, the ship's core had stabilized, its angry red glow settling into a steady blue pulse. "Impossible," Naira whispered. "You shouldn't have been able to understand those systems, let alone repair them." Marcus wiped his hands on his coveralls. "A machine's a machine. They all want to work right, you just have to listen to what they're telling you." He checked his phone, 3:40 a.m. Emma would be worried. "Look, you need more repairs and you probably shouldn't stay out in the open. My shop's got a back lot with good cover. If you can get this thing there, we can." A distant rumble cut him off. Both he and Naira looked up to see 3 black shapes descending from the clouds, their profiles distinctly similar to Naira's ship. "The Curator's hunters," Naira said, her voice tight with fear. "They followed me through the fold." She turned to Marcus, her golden eyes intense. "You have knowledge I didn't think possible in a human, and I have something you need, though you don't know it yet. Help me hide my ship, and I promise you won't regret it." Marcus thought of Emma, of the mysterious illness that kept her weak and tired, of the specialists who couldn't help her. Something in Naira's voice suggested she knew more than she was saying. "Follow my truck," he said, already heading back to his pickup, "and stay low." As he drove back to the highway, Marcus wondered what he was getting himself into. But he'd learned long ago that being a father meant taking chances when hope presented itself, no matter how strange the package it came in. The night was about to get a lot more interesting. A bargain among stars. The sun was just beginning to paint the horizon when Marcus guided his truck into Henderson's auto repair. The shop's back lot was hidden from the main road by a collection of old storage containers and defunct machinery, a messy arrangement that had always bothered him, but now served as perfect cover for the alien spacecraft settling silently behind his workplace. Mrs. Rodriguez was dozing in his worn armchair when he entered the small apartment above the shop. Emma lay curled up on the couch, her dark curls framing a face too pale for an 8-year-old. Marcus thanked the neighbor and saw her out before gently lifting his daughter. "Dad," Emma mumbled, not fully awake, "you smell like burning metal." "Just a complicated job, sweetheart," he whispered, carrying her to her bedroom. "Go back to sleep." Once Emma was tucked in, Marcus returned to the lot. Naira had emerged from her ship, the morning light revealing more details of her appearance. What he'd taken for armor was actually part of her sections of metallic plating that seemed to grow from her silvery skin. She was examining the shop's tools with an expression between amusement and fascination. "Your daughter," she said without looking up. "She's ill, isn't she? I can sense the cellular degradation from here." Marcus stiffened. "How did you?" "My people are healers as much as we are scientists," Naira interrupted, finally turning to face him. "The Veridan Empire spans thousands of worlds, and our medical knowledge has cured diseases that your doctors haven't even discovered yet." She paused, her golden eyes softening. "Your daughter's condition, we call it stellar decay. It's rare but treatable." Hope and suspicion warred in Marcus's chest. "Why tell me this? What do you want?" "A trade," Naira said simply. "The hunters who followed me work for the curator, a being who believes certain technologies are too dangerous for any species to possess. I discovered something that challenges that belief, a way to fold space without the massive energy requirements that make current interstellar travel so limiting." She walked to her ship, placing a hand on its hull. The metal rippled at her touch. "But my discovery also revealed corruption within the Empire. The curator isn't preserving peace, he's maintaining control. When I tried to expose this, I was branded a traitor. Now I need time to repair my ship and gather evidence, and I need someone with your unique ability to understand technology." "And in exchange?" Marcus asked, though he already knew. "I'll cure your daughter," Naira's voice was firm. "My ship's medical bay contains everything needed to treat stellar decay. Help me complete my mission, and Emma will have a full, healthy life." Marcus ran a hand through his graying hair. "These hunters, how dangerous are they?" "Very," Naira admitted. "But they're bound by strict protocols. They can't risk exposing their presence to your wider population. It gives us some advantage." A noise from above made them both look up. Emma stood at her bedroom window, eyes wide as she stared at Naira. Even from the ground, Marcus could see his daughter's face light up with wonder rather than fear. "Your offspring shows remarkable neural patterns," Naira observed. "The illness hasn't affected her mind at all." "She's brilliant," Marcus said proudly. "Straight as even when she's too sick to go to school. She reads everything she can get her hands on, especially about space." He looked at his daughter, then back to Naira. "If I help you, how long will it take?" "To repair the ship properly? 3 days. To gather the evidence I need." Naira's face plates shifted in what Marcus was beginning to recognize as uncertainty. "That's more complicated. The proof is scattered across several secure databases. We'd need to access them without being detected." Marcus nodded slowly. "Emma's got a school break coming up. I can close the shop for renovations. It's been slow enough lately that nobody will question it." He met Naira's golden gaze. "But I need to know everything. No surprises. My daughter's safety comes first." "Agreed," Naira said. "Though you should know helping me means becoming part of something larger than yourself. The curator's influence extends across galaxies. If we succeed, we'll be changing the balance of power throughout known space. I change oil and fix transmissions, Marcus replied dryly. Galactic politics isn't really my thing. Naira's face plates shifted again, this time in what was clearly amusement. Says the human who repaired a Veridan phase drive by treating it like a garden hose. Their conversation was interrupted by the distant sound of helicopters. Naira tensed, but Marcus held up a hand. Military training exercises, they run them out here all the time, but we should get your ship under better cover. As they worked to maneuver the vessel into one of the larger storage containers, Emma came down to the lot, keeping her distance but watching everything with keen interest. Marcus noticed how she moved, still careful, still tired, but with more energy than he'd seen in weeks. Hope's a powerful medicine on its own, Naira said softly, following his gaze. But I promise you, Marcus Henderson, by the time our deal is done, she'll have more than just hope. She'll have a future. Marcus looked at his daughter, at the mysterious alien who'd crashed into his life, and at the half-hidden ship that represented both danger and possibility. He'd spent 8 years watching Emma fight her illness, feeling helpless as doctors shook their heads and specialists gave up. Now help had literally fallen from the sky. All right, he said finally, let's go save the galaxy. Hunters in the dark. 2 days into their alliance, Marcus discovered that fixing alien technology wasn't the hardest part of their arrangement, keeping it secret was. The shop's regular customers weren't happy with the sudden closure, and the local mechanics gossip network was buzzing with speculation. But none of that compared to the challenge of explaining things to Emma. His daughter sat cross-legged on a workbench, watching as Marcus and Naira worked on the ship's propulsion system. The alien had agreed to answer Emma's questions, provided she stayed away from the more sensitive equipment. Currently, she was explaining the basics of interstellar navigation to the enthralled child. So the stars are like landmarks? Emma asked, her usual fatigue momentarily forgotten in her excitement. More like currents in a river, Naira replied, her hands deep in a panel of shifting metal. Space flows in patterns. Once you understand them, distance becomes flexible. Marcus smiled at their interaction, but his attention was focused on the delicate work before him. He'd learned that Veridan technology was partially organic, responding to both physical manipulation and electromagnetic resonance. Right now, he was using a modified timing light from his shop to communicate with a particularly stubborn power coupling. A sudden bang from outside made them all freeze. Through the storage container's small window, Marcus caught a glimpse of black SUVs pulling into the front lot. Government plates, he muttered, already moving. Emma, remember what we practiced? His daughter nodded solemnly, sliding off the workbench and heading for the hidden door they'd prepared in the container's floor. It led to a maintenance tunnel Marcus had discovered years ago, probably left over from the town's mining days. Naira's faceplates shifted in alarm. The hunters wouldn't use human vehicles. No, Marcus agreed, which means we've got a new problem. He helped Emma through the hatch, then turned to Naira. Your ship's sensors, can they tell if we're being watched from orbit? Yes, but... Naira's golden eyes widened in understanding. You think these humans are working with the Curator's forces? Makes sense. If I were hunting aliens, I'd want local help. Marcus checked his phone, no signals. They're blocking communications. How long until the ship's ready to fly? The phase drive is at 60%. We could launch, but folding space would tear us apart. Naira moved to a control panel, her fingers dancing across its liquid surface. The hunters have positioned 3 ships in high orbit. They're waiting for us to run. Emma's voice drifted up from the tunnel. Dad, there's weird lights down here. Marcus and Naira exchanged glances. What color, sweetheart? Purple, like Naira's ship when it's sleeping. Naira hissed something in her native language. They're using the old mining tunnels to position fold generators. They'll create a containment field, trap us here until their main forces arrive. Marcus's mind raced. The tunnels honeycombed the entire area, most of them unmapped, but he'd grown up exploring them back when the town still had a functioning mine. More importantly, he'd spent years using them to store parts and run power lines for the shop. Emma, honey, stay where you are. Is the light getting brighter? No, it's kind of poolsing. They're still calibrating the field, Naira said. We have maybe 20 minutes before it's active. Marcus grabbed his tools and a flashlight. My grandfather was the mine's electrical engineer. He left behind maps, real ones, not the official surveys. There's a whole section of tunnels the company never reported, leads all the way to the old quarry. And you know how to find them. Better, Marcus grinned. I've been using them to store engine parts for years, got my own power setup down there and everything. He patted the ship's hull. Think you can teach me how those fold generators work in the next 10 minutes? Naira's face plates shifted in what he now recognized as her version of a smile. You learned to repair a phase drive in under an hour. I think you can handle it. They worked quickly, gathering essential tools and data cores. Marcus retrieved his grandfather's maps from the shop's safe, while Naira downloaded critical files from the ship's computer. Emma, they discovered, had already packed her backpack with water bottles and snacks. I read a lot of adventure books, she explained when they climbed down to join her. The heroes always forget to pack food. The tunnel stretched before them, decades of dust disturbed by their passage. Every few hundred feet, they passed another purple-glowing generator, each one humming with barely contained power. Marcus studied them as they passed, his mechanic's mind already seeing patterns in their construction. They're not so different from the ship's drive, he muttered. Just working in reverse, trying to stabilize space instead of fold it. Which is precisely why it won't work, Naira replied. Space isn't meant to be still. The curator's whole philosophy is built on a fundamental misunderstanding of. She stopped abruptly, pulling Marcus and Emma into a side passage. Moments later, boots crunched through the dust where they'd been standing. Flashlight beams cut through the darkness, accompanied by the crackle of radio communication. Grid 7 clear, a voice reported. No sign of the target. Keep searching, came the reply. The curator's representative wants them contained before sunset. Marcus felt Emma trembling against him, but when he looked down, he saw excitement in her eyes rather than fear. His daughter had spent too many years trapped by her illness. Now, despite the danger, she was finally having an adventure. They waited until the search team passed, then continued deeper into the tunnels. The air grew cooler, and the sound of dripping water echoed in the darkness. According to Marcus's map, they were now in the unmapped section, heading toward a chamber he'd been using as a secondary storage area. Once we reach it, he whispered, I can show you something that might help us turn those generators against them. Naira looked at him curiously. What did you store down here? Parts from an experimental military prototype. They contracted me to scrap it a few years ago, but some pieces were too interesting to destroy. He smiled in the darkness. Sometimes being a simple mechanic has its advantages. Above them, unnoticed, a small drone silently tracked their progress through the ancient stone. The hidden laboratory. The storage chamber was exactly as Marcus remembered it, though seeing it through Naira's golden eyes gave him a new appreciation for what he'd built. Old mining equipment had been repurposed into workbenches and power distribution systems. Salvaged military hardware sat alongside modified civilian technology, creating a workshop that looked like something out of a science fiction movie. Dad's secret lab, Emma announced proudly, already moving to her favorite spot, a converted operator's chair that Marcus had modified for her on days when she felt strong enough to join him underground. Naira walked slowly through the space, her face plates shifting rapidly as she examined each piece of equipment. This is remarkable. You've integrated technologies that shouldn't be compatible. That power matrix, it's drawing energy from the geothermal vents, isn't it? Marcus nodded, moving to a large, tarp-covered mass in the corner. The mine was built on a hotspot. Military wanted to harness it for their project, but they could never get it stable. After they gave up, I kept tinkering. He pulled away the tarp, revealing what looked like a cross between a satellite dish and a Tesla coil. This is what I wanted to show you. A resonance amplifier, Naira breathed, running her hand along the device's curved surface. But the design, it's unlike anything I've seen. Because I built it from scratch, Marcus explained, already connecting power cables. The military prototype was supposed to be a crowd-controlled device, using electromagnetic fields to disrupt communications and disable electronics. But their approach was too aggressive. I found that if you match the natural frequencies of the target systems instead of overwhelming them, you can influence them without destroying them, Naira finished. Her golden eyes gleamed with understanding. Like the way you repaired my ship's phase drive. A distant rumble interrupted them, followed by the sound of falling rocks. Emma clutched her backpack tighter. They're getting closer. Marcus checked his grandfather's maps, spread out on a nearby workbench. They're using sonic charges to map the tunnels, but they don't know about the natural caverns. He pointed to a series of annotations in faded pencil. There's a whole network of them running parallel to these passages, if we can get my amplifier working with their fold generators. We could create a cascading resonance, Naira said excitedly. The energy would flow through the caverns like a wave, disrupting their containment field. She paused, face plates shifting in concern. But the calculations would need to be perfect. Too much power and we could collapse the entire tunnel system. Good thing I've got two of the smartest people I know helping me, Marcus said, winking at Emma. Think you can handle being our data analyst, sweetheart? Emma was already pulling out her tablet, a birthday gift from last year that she'd mainly used for reading. Like checking the harmonics when you're tuning an engine. Exactly. Marcus began calibrating the amplifier while Naira interfaced with it using components from her ship. They worked quickly, aware that every tremor brought their pursuers closer. The next hour was a blur of calculations, adjustments, and careful testing. Emma proved to be a natural at spotting patterns in the energy readings, while Naira's knowledge of fold physics helped them understand how the generators were affecting local space-time. Marcus moved between them, translating theory into practical adjustments to his hardware. Another explosion, much closer this time, showered them with dust. Through the tunnels came the sound of voices and equipment being moved. They're hurting us, Naira said grimly. The containment field is almost complete. Once it is, they'll be able to track every movement we make within it. Marcus made a final connection to his amplifier. How's it looking, Emma? His daughter studied the readings on her tablet. The purple lights are all pulsing together now, like they're singing the same note. That's our window, Naira confirmed. If we're going to act, it needs to be now. Marcus took a deep breath, his hand on the amplifier's main control. Everything he'd learned about machines, every instinct he'd developed over years of fixing the supposedly unfixable, told him this would work. But if he was wrong... Dad, Emma's voice was steady despite her pallor. Remember what you always tell me about being brave. That bravery isn't about not being scared, he replied softly. It's about doing what needs to be done anyway. Naira placed her hand over his on the control. Together, she said, for Emma's future and for all the worlds that need to know the truth. Marcus nodded and engaged the amplifier. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then a low hum began to build, resonating through the rock around them. The purple light from the fold generators brightened, then began to flicker as the amplifier matched and modified their frequency. Energy cascade beginning, Naira reported, watching data flow across her scanner. The containment field is destabilizing. Emma's tablet displayed a complex wave pattern. The harmonics are spreading through the caverns, just like you said, Dad. The hum grew louder, and the ground beneath them trembled. In the tunnels, they could hear shouts of alarm as the fold generators began to overload. Marcus adjusted the amplifier's output, using the skills he'd learned from a lifetime of listening to machines to guide the resonance. They're trying to compensate, Naira warned. The hunters' ships are increasing power to the field. Let them, Marcus said grimly. The harder they push. The stronger the backlash, Emma finished, grinning despite her exhaustion. The purple light suddenly flared blindingly bright. Through the tunnels came the sound of multiple explosions as the fold generators went into cascade failure. The containment field collapsed, sending a shockwave of displaced energy through the cavern system. When the dust settled, Marcus's first concern was Emma. She was still in her chair, clutching her tablet and looking exhilarated. Naira's scanner showed the tunnels above them partially collapsed, but their chamber was secure. "The hunters' ships are retreating," Naira reported. "The energy backlash damaged their fold drives. They'll need time to repair." "How long?" Marcus asked, already thinking about their next move. "Long enough," Naira replied with a predatory smile. "But we should get back to my ship. I promised to cure your daughter, and now I can finally keep that promise." As they gathered their equipment, Marcus noticed Emma studying Naira's scanner with intense interest. "Dad," she said thoughtfully, "these energy patterns, they look like the diagnostic readings from your shop's computer, just bigger." Marcus and Naira exchanged glances. Perhaps there was more than one kind of healing that needed to happen here, not just for Emma's body, but for humanity's understanding of its place in the universe. The drone that had been watching them lay crushed under fallen rocks, its final transmission lost in the cascade of energy that had changed everything. Legacy of hope. Dawn broke over Henderson's auto repair as Marcus watched Naira prepare the medical treatment for Emma. The alien ship's medical bay hummed with energy, its walls rippling with diagnostic displays that Marcus was starting to understand. His daughter lay on a treatment bed that seemed to be made of liquid metal, her expression a mix of excitement and nervousness. "The cellular reconstruction will take approximately 2 hours," Naira explained, her hands dancing over floating control panels. "She'll sleep through most of it." "And you're sure it will work?" Marcus asked, though he already trusted Naira more than any Earth doctor who had examined Emma. "The treatment is targeting the exact genetic sequence causing her condition." Naira's face plates shifted in what he now recognized as gentle reassurance. "By sunset, stellar decay will be nothing but a memory." Emma squeezed her father's hand. "Dad, while I'm getting better, you have to help Naira get her evidence. The curator's people will come back." Marcus kissed her forehead. "When did you get so smart?" "I've always been smart," Emma replied with a grin. "I just got it from watching you fix impossible things." As the treatment began, Emma drifted into a peaceful sleep. Marcus watched her color improve almost immediately, years of illness beginning to fade away. Then he turned to Naira, his expression determined. "All right, what's our next move?" Naira led him to the ship's command center, where holographic displays showed multiple data streams. "The curator's forces are regrouping in high orbit. Your resonance cascade damaged their ships, but they're adapting their fold drives to compensate. We have maybe 12 hours. "Then let's make them count." Marcus studied the displays, his mechanic's mind translating alien data into familiar patterns. "You said you needed to access secure databases. How many?" 3. Each contains part of the evidence showing how the curator has manipulated technological development across multiple species. Naira's golden eyes narrowed. "But accessing them will alert the hunters to our location." Marcus smiled, already pulling up schematics of his resonance amplifier on a nearby screen. "Maybe not. Remember how Emma noticed the similarity between energy patterns? I think I know how we can hide our data access behind the background noise of normal spacetime fluctuations." They worked steadily as the hours passed, combining Marcus's practical knowledge with Naira's advanced understanding of fold physics. The resonance amplifier was modified and connected to the ship systems, creating a sophisticated camouflage for their data gathering. Periodically, Marcus checked on Emma. Each time he found her looking healthier, her body finally winning a battle it had fought for so long. The sight gave him renewed energy for the task ahead. By early afternoon, they had accumulated enough evidence to expose the curator's centuries of manipulation. But as they worked to encrypt and secure the data, alarms blared through the ship. "Multiple fold signatures," Naira reported grimly. "They're not just coming back, they're bringing a full containment fleet." Marcus checked the time. "Emma's treatment." Complete, she's already showing normal cellular activity. Naira's face plates shifted rapidly. But Marcus, you need to understand what happens next. Once I transmit this evidence to the Veridan High Council, there's no going back. The Curator's forces will do anything to stop us. A small voice came from the medical bay entrance. Then we stop them first. They turned to see Emma standing there, looking stronger than she had in years. Her eyes were bright with intelligence and determination, her stance steady and confident. The resonance cascade worked because it used their own energy against them, she continued, walking to one of the displays. So why can't we do the same thing with their whole fleet? Marcus and Naira exchanged glances. The power requirements would be enormous, Naira said slowly. Unless, Marcus added, already seeing where Emma's logic led, we use their containment field as an amplifier, the bigger they make it. The harder they fall, Emma finished. What followed was a symphony of improvisation. Marcus's understanding of practical mechanics merged with Naira's advanced physics and Emma's fresh perspective. They modified the ship systems, preparing for a gambit that would either save them or doom them. The containment fleet arrived in a display of overwhelming force. Dozens of ships, each larger than Naira's vessel, moved to surround them. Their combined fold drives began creating a containment field that would make their previous encounter seem like a practice run. A transmission cut through their communications. This is Curator Proximate Vos. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick. Resist and we will ensure your suffering becomes legend. Emma, sitting at a jury-rigged control panel of her own design, looked to her father. Marcus nodded to Naira. Send the evidence, all of it. As the data burst transmitted to the Veridan High Council, their modified resonance amplifier engaged. The containment field's energy began to shift, its frequencies changing in ways the Curator's forces never anticipated. Their own fold drives, linked together in an attempt to trap their quarry, became the instrument of their defeat. The sky above Henderson's auto repair erupted in a spectacular display, as dozens of ships lost control of their fold drives simultaneously. The containment field collapsed in on itself, dragging most of the fleet into a cascade of uncontrolled space-time fluctuations. When it was over, only their ship remained in stable orbit. Emergency signals from the surviving Curator vessels indicated their fold drives were completely fused. The High Council acknowledges receipt of all evidence, Naira reported, her voice thick with emotion. They're calling for an immediate emergency session. The Curator's authority is being suspended pending investigation. Marcus hugged Emma close, feeling the healthy strength in her embrace. So what happens now? Naira's face plates shifted in what he now recognized as her broadest smile. Now we help reshape the future. Your understanding of technology, combined with Emma's fresh insights, the Veridan Empire would benefit greatly from such wisdom. Are you offering us a job? Marcus asked, raising an eyebrow. I'm offering you a chance to help ensure no power, not even the Veridan Empire, ever again hoards knowledge that could help people. Naira gestured to her ship's displays, where data about countless worlds scrolled past. There are children like Emma on every planet, waiting for cures that someone has decided they're not ready for. Emma tugged at her father's sleeve. Dad, can we? I promise to still help at the shop between saving galaxies. Marcus looked around at the alien ship that had become strangely familiar, at the daughter who had fought so hard to live and now blazed with health, and at the alien who had become family. Well, he said with a smile, I've always wanted to expand the family business. Above them, the stars beckoned with new promise, while below, Henderson's auto repair stood ready for its next impossible fix. The universe, it seemed, had a way of sending the right problems to the right mechanic.